The WNBA has officially entered a new era, but with it has come growing pains, controversy, and now, panic. Because what was supposed to be a celebration of fresh talent and a long overdue spotlight on women's basketball has suddenly taken a dark and dangerous turn. And at the center of it all is Caitlin Clark, the biggest star the WNBA has seen in years. But instead of welcoming her with open arms, a storm of aggression, hostility, and flat-out dangerous behavior has exploded. On the court, the message has been loud and clear. You're not welcome here. This isn't a theory. It's not speculation. It's reality, caught on camera, shared across social media, and now dominating national headlines. Because in just a few weeks of her rookie season, Caitlin Clark has already been shoved to the floor, blindsided without the ball, ignored by referees, and hit with fouls that weren't even called. Some are calling it initiation. Others are calling it hazing. But now, after the latest series of brutal hits, one of which may have led to injury, fans, analysts, and even former players are raising the alarm. Is this really how the league plans to treat its biggest asset? Or is the WNBA letting jealousy, resentment, and even race get in the way of progress? Let's rewind just a little. Caitlin Clark didn't sneak into the league. She didn't crawl her way in quietly, hoping for a backup spot. She came in like a rocket. A generational college talent who not only broke records, but rewrote how the game is played. Her games at Iowa sold out arenas. She boosted ticket sales, broke viewership, records, and turned women's basketball into must-see TV. And the WNBA, it desperately needed that kind of spotlight. But when Caitlin entered the league, drafted #1 overall by the Indiana Fever, the reception from fans was electric. Her jersey sold out within hours. Games were moved to bigger arenas. Away stadiums started filling up just to see her play. The league had a golden ticket. But from some of the players already in the WNBA, the response was icy, even aggressive. From day one, it was clear that some veterans and even rookies viewed Caitlin not as a teammate in the fight for women's sports, but as a threat, a symbol of privilege, someone who got all the attention and money without paying her dues. But instead of expressing that through words, it showed up in a much more dangerous way, physical play, and not just regular tough defense. We're talking about cheap shots, elbows, shoves after the whistle, contact with no basketball purpose, and worst of all, referees who don't seem to care. The most glaring example came during a Fever game against the Chicago Sky. In a moment that went instantly viral, Sky guard Chennedy Carter blindsided Caitlin Clark with a body check, off the ball. The play wasn't even live. Clark was walking near the lane when Carter launched her shoulder into Caitlin's chest, knocking her to the floor. The ref didn't blow the whistle. No flagrant, no tech. Play just continued. Fans erupted online. Even people who don't follow the WNBA were asking, how is that allowed? Replays clearly showed Carter making no effort to avoid Clark. No play on the ball. Just a shoulder straight into her. But even more shocking than the hit itself was what happened after. When asked about it in the post-game press conference, Chennedy Carter refused to explain her actions, and then followed it up with a cryptic, "I said what I said" type of tweet. Later, that tweet was deleted. But the message had already been received. This wasn't just basketball. This was personal, and it's not an isolated incident. Throughout the first few games of the season, Caitlin has taken elbows to the face, been shoved out of bounds, tripped on non-calls, and whacked while going up for layups, with barely any fouls called. Even worse, when she does get hit, she often looks around in disbelief, waiting for a whistle that never comes. It's almost like the referees have decided that because of who she is, she won't get the benefit of the doubt. And that brings us to a larger problem: the refs. Because even if players are playing overly physical, the referees are there to control the game. That's their job. And yet, game after game, they've been letting blatant fouls go uncalled. Fans are calling it a double standard. Critics are wondering if the refs are trying to toughen her up. But what if it's more sinister? What if there's a quiet resentment happening from top to bottom in the WNBA? A silent message that says, "We didn't choose you as our savior, and we don't want you." Some insiders have even suggested that Caitlin is being punished for how much attention she's received. That veteran players are sick of the headlines, the money, the endorsements, the cameras, and the crowds that all seem to revolve around her. But instead of using that attention to grow the league, some players seem determined to reject it. And her. Former players have started speaking up. Cheryl Swoops, a legend in women's basketball, called out the league for not protecting its investment. "This isn't just about Caitlin," she said. "This is about the health of the WNBA. If fans tune in and see a star player getting leveled every night with no protection, they're not going to stick around." She's not wrong. This isn't just a Caitlin problem. It's a WNBA problem. And now, panic is setting in. Because if Caitlin Clark suffers a real injury, not just bumps and bruises, but something that sidelines her, the backlash will be fierce. The league could lose its biggest draw. Sponsors could pull back. Viewership could tank. This season was supposed to be a breakthrough moment for the WNBA. But instead, it's on the verge of becoming a cautionary tale. Even some WNBA fans are feeling conflicted. They love the physical play. They want intensity. But many are also saying there's a difference between tough defense and targeted aggression. One fan tweeted, "You don't have to like Caitlin Clark to admit what's happening is wrong. You can't build a league by letting your stars get bullied out of it." Another wrote, "The WNBA wants more attention, but when the spotlight finally shows up, they treat it like a threat." And let's not ignore the racial dimension here. Some critics have pointed out that Caitlin Clark, a white player, is getting massive attention in a league that's predominantly black. They argue that black players have been overlooked and underpaid for years. And now suddenly, one white player becomes the face of the league overnight. That's a valid conversation to have. Representation matters. Equity matters. But using physical violence to express frustration is not the solution. What's even more ironic is that Caitlin Clark herself has never claimed to be the savior of the league. She's repeatedly shown respect to veterans, credited her teammates, and taken responsibility for her own growth. She knows she has to adjust to the WNBA's pace and toughness, but she shouldn't have to worry about being taken out by a cheap shot every night. So now the pressure is on the league office. WNBA Commissioner Kathy Engelbert has a decision to make. Do they crack down on these kinds of hits and start protecting players equally? Or do they sit back and let things escalate, risking injury, public backlash, and long-term damage to the league's image? Because one thing is certain, the world is watching. ESPN, SportsCenter, Bleacher Report, all of them are running clips of Caitlin Clark getting knocked around. But this isn't the kind of highlight reel the league wants. You can't ask for attention and then get upset when the spotlight reveals the cracks. If the WNBA truly wants to grow, it needs to mature. That means better officiating. That means real consequences for flagrant fouls. And that means embracing the players who bring eyes to the game. Whether they're rookies or veterans, black or white, hyped or underrated, this league has an opportunity to rise, but only if it stops sabotaging itself. As for Caitlin Clark, she's not backing down. In her post-game interviews, she's remained calm, focused, and committed to improving. "It's a physical league," she says. "I'm learning every game." That's the mentality of a true competitor, but she shouldn't have to carry the weight of reform on her back alone. If the league doesn't act now, the damage might be permanent. Because once the public decides that the WNBA is more about petty jealousy and ignored injuries than elite competition and sportsmanship, the momentum will vanish. And it may not return. Instant panic has hit the league for a reason. And unless changes come fast, the injury to Caitlin Clark won't just be physical. It'll be a symbol of a league that still doesn't know how to handle success.